They are concerned about Mexican immigration, but then I say, yeah, but would you rather have that or what we're having in the UK right now?
I disagree.
What?
I hear this all the time. It's quantity with us. And by the way, the Mexican drug cartels. Mexican drug cartels keep beheading people. Just the most grotesque tortures. They will.
Está fea la situación, ¿verdad? Está fea la situación.
One 14-year-old boy killed 4 guys, chopped their genitals off, hung their. We've taken in 1/4 of Mexico's population. There will be no America. There will be no England. Who's going to fight the next battle against slavery?
I raise the grooming gangs. If I had a choice between waking up tomorrow and the Mexicans have taken over Britain or Sharia law in Islam, come on.
Some cultures are simply incompatible with Western culture. I don't understand why England is doing this to itself. It's the most beautiful country. Why do people want to wreck this country? Why?
Can I ask you a favour? Heretics subscribers are through the roof, but only 43% of you watching are actually subscribed, which is mad. If you enjoy thought-provoking conversations and want to help this channel grow, hit that subscribe button. It's free and makes a huge difference. This is great. So tell me a bit, for those who don't know, and I think a lot of people do know, but what is your kind of background-y thing?
Well, I'm an author. I've written 13 books. The last 4 are still so topical right now. I'm not writing another book right now. For one thing, I think I've said everything. But the last 4 books are a good example of that. First, Adios America, and that is where Trump got his immigration ideas. You know, he's run for president 3 times and didn't mention immigration the first time. I mean, the Mexican thing, that is, I said it a little more delicately, I think, but I backed it up. Adios America is a really, really hardcore immigration book, and the rest of the Republican Party hated me, as they hated Trump. But I mean, I used to live part-time, it was LA and New York. And you can't be in California without being in a rage about mass immigration from Latin America. We're just becoming another failed Latin American state. Not to mention it went from Republican state that gave us Reagan and Nixon and Proposition 13, the massive property tax that's just swept the nation and in part swept Reagan into office. Now, you couldn't be elected dog catcher in that state as a Republican. So, I mean, it does have electoral consequences. People, as hardworking as Mexicans are, they do collect a lot of welfare. And I mean, hopefully Trump is winning them over. They don't want their, brother-in-laws coming and sleeping on the couch either. They're happy to pull up the ladder now. So Adios America, that was important, and it's still important because Trump didn't do anything his first term. He's finally doing the stuff I voted for him for. Okay, so the next book, I supported Trump. I always thought he was a ridiculous character. I grew up around New York City, just a preposterous individual. But after that Mexican racist speech, and he didn't back down, so like 2 weeks after he announced, I just told my friends, I got to support him. This is what I've been waiting for my whole life. And people thought I was joking.
Why is that? Why do they think you were joking? Because you were too liberal or too Republican, too far one way or the other?
I think just because he's a preposterous individual.
Yeah.
But I said to them, okay, this is what I've been trying to vote for my entire life, and no other Republican will give it to me. He saw the $1,000 bill on the ground and he picked it up, fine. And I was introducing him at rallies. Fox News absolutely hated him. That's the conservative network. Hated me. I mean, they hated me for the immigration book, hated me for supporting Trump. So I wrote In Trump We Trust the next year that came out summer of 2016 of the election. And I still think it's a fantastic book. I think his campaign was the greatest presidential campaign in world history. And then I started gently at first and then a little more aggressively, bashing him his first term because he wasn't doing the stuff. He could have been Jeb Bush. He could have been he cut taxes. Okay, I'm not against cutting taxes, but that's not why we voted for you. It was, I think the 3-legged stool is number 1, immigration. Number 2, bringing manufacturing back. He was very big on that. And 3rd, no more stupid, pointless wars that go on and on and on and accomplish nothing.
Yeah.
And he wasn't really doing any of that.
He was quite good on the wars, wasn't he? There were fewer wars Trump's first
Yes. Yes, I
But he
can't.
was supposed to build your first point. He was supposed to build a wall, wasn't he?
And deport and anchor babies, and there are a million things. But let's leap ahead to happy times now. So the left is totally idiotic. And actually, that was my last book, Resistance is Futile, because even though I was mad at Trump for not doing stuff, I kept looking at the media and their attacks on him. And I mean, that book explains why, in part, why he got reelected after missing a term. They were just so hysterical about him. They lost their minds. They became deranged. And instead of making, I mean, I always thought, Trump would do something sort of douchey. And I think, okay, that was douchey. But instead of just saying, pointing out what he actually did, they'd always have to throw in, Andy killed a nun. And why do you keep making me defend him? No, he didn't kill a nun. And so it was called Resistance is Futile. And it was basically just how they had lost their minds. And by going so far overboard, they were hurting their own cause. Not that I want to help liberals, but it was kind of comical to watch. And boy, did they do that when he was out of office. And I didn't even like him then. I was mad at him for not building the wall, not doing the deportations. But every single prosecution, every single civil case was utter, complete BS. I mean, it's an example out of my book, Resistance is Futile. I'm prepared to dislike the guy, but you guys have gone so absurd in going after him. And I think I think it made him angry, and that's why he's keeping his promises now. And two, I think it made a lot of Americans angry to see how unfair and political and third world dictatorial it was. But boy, he's coming out guns blazing for this term. So this is the Trump I voted for and campaigned for 8 years ago.
That's interesting. Why do people say you're sort of the American Katie Hopkins?
I don't really know her, so it's hard for me to
There's
say.
a picture of you two, those.
I met her at Politicon, but I don't know much about her.
Okay. She's sort of, I suppose, maybe the most controversial person in this country in terms of what she would say. So many of the things I agree with, some of the things I go, bloody hell. Are there things you've said over the years where you go, oh, maybe that was too far? Or is it like all is fair in love and war?
Well, there's nothing I'd take back. A lot of times they're jokes, and liberals get really angry when you make a joke at their expense. If it lands, they're going to scream bloody murder.
Yeah, I know. It's a funny thing to watch happening. There are so many things that I guess I feel like I've changed over the years. So when I first heard Trump talking about a wall, for example, I mean, I don't know what I was, but young. It sounded like this is like a concentration camp, but it's not. The concentration camp walls were to keep people in,
Right?
It's a border. I mean, I lived in another country for years, and I understood that if they didn't want me there anymore, I have to leave. That's their prerogative. That's their country. I don't know why was that so controversial. It's a wall.
It's the same thing I've been saying, and I ask you as soon as I sat down here. I love London so much. It is such a beautiful city. The other parts of England I've been to, which isn't very many, I'd like to see more, but it's so magnificent. I was in the National Portrait Gallery today, and just in this one room it was like 1780 to 1830. They're inventors and scientists. So British invent the vaccine, invent the calculator. You have the beginning of Darwinism. You have the first mathematical panel. You have the first police force with Robert Peel, and that's why they're called Bobbies. What else was in? I mentioned vaccination, but I mean, England was vaccinating people in the 1700s. There were astronomical discoveries. It's such a beautiful country, and the buildings are so beautiful, and the people are so lovely.
We abolished slavery as well.
You abolished slavery. Well, so did we, but it took more dead Americans.
Yeah, I think we were the first country in the world. And the reason I say that, Konstantin Kisin recently came on, and he made that point of, isn't it a strange thing that a thing that every country in existence ever has done, and this country actually stopped it, and yet is held up as a sort of paragon as the worst by the people who live here. This horrible country that's done horrible things.
As if we're the only countries that ever had slavery. No, we were buying the slaves. It's not like they were running into the jungle and grabbing them. No, they were buying them. There were slave traders and slavery still exists to this day. No, it drives me crazy. Yeah. But I mention all of this about London, and in a long way to answer your question about the wall. Why why do people want to wreck this country? Why? Please don't wreck this country.
We all have those little habits, tapping a pen, chewing gum, fiddling with stuff while we think. Mine, I found something way more satisfying. This is Fume. The sponsor of today's video, and it's honestly one of the most interesting things I've tried. It's a flavoured air device, not a vape, not a gimmick, just a really smart tool for people who like to keep their hands and mouth busy without inhaling anything nasty. No vapor, no nicotine, just natural flavours. Weighted premium design you actually want to fidget with. Clicks, magnets and airflow that sound great even on mic. My favourite flavour, mint. It's clean, sharp and leaves you with surprisingly fresh breath. If you're curious, over 500,000 people already use Fume as part of their daily routine. Grab the journey pack at tryfume.com/heretics. Use code heretics and they'll throw in a free topper to level up the experience. Scan the QR code on screen and check it out. Completely sincerely, why do you, I mean, I'm thinking psychologically, what is, children growing up and wanting to rebel against parents? Is it something like that going on?
I think we do need to talk to their shrinks to get to the bottom of it. At least in the US, I don't know if this has any purchase here, but part of it is the cheap labor and the donors want the cheap labor. Man, they can't get enough of the cheap labor. Yeah. Which really enrages me, especially the farmers. Have you heard of computers and robotics? Mm-hmm. They're the only industry. Nope, we want to farm the way our great-great-great-grandfather did. We're just going to send people. No, just if you take away the cheap labor, they'll start using the machines. They're machines that can pick strawberries precisely when they're ripe. I mean, all of this exists. Elon is sending men to the moon. Don't tell me you don't have robotics to do the work of their cheap labor. But their cheap labor is cheap for the employer. It's only cheap for the employer. The rest of us are subsidizing their cheap labor because their cheap labor, as I mentioned, with a lot of the Latin Americans coming legally and illegally to the U.S., especially California. They get a lot of government assistance. So we're subsidizing their cheap labor. We need to bill them for the externalities. So there's the cheap labor, there are the votes, and that has a fun little twist to it. And wait, before I get back to the votes, because that's crucial. No, I think that's about it. And a deep-seated hatred of America and hatred of civilization. I mean,
that's what I'm angling at, I think, sort of the self-hating woke kind of thing, the original sin kind of thing.
Yes. There's something about the left, not all liberals, certainly not all Democrats, but there is some segment of the left that they do. They hate their fathers. They hate civilization. They hate where there is peace and order and people are happy. No, let's create chaos. It's a weird, that's what we need to talk to their shrinks for. As for the votes, the funny thing about that is what's happening right now, Andrew, is they bring in all these third worlders, the Democrats. Fantastic. They're voting for us because Democrats, Dianne Feinstein and Harry Reid and Obama and Hillary even, but going back a while, Cesar Chavez, they were against this mass third world immigration because it drove down wages for the poorest and for the middle class and working class. It's really a much more liberal position, or it used to be. I thought they used to care about the poor, but I guess they don't. Right. And then Democrats realized, oh my gosh, no, they're voting for us. Let's keep the flow going. Keep it going. Okay, but now they're losing all their elections, Andrew, and it's hilarious to watch. So, for example, because this just happened this week, Minnesota Mayor, I think his name is Jacob Frey, F-R-E-Y. Anyway, he could not have sucked up more to the Somalis, to the minorities out there. When George Floyd was going around in his golden casket, which I'm sure Trump will be very envious of. It's going to be a casket. He's going to ask for that casket. Anyway, the golden casket, Joseph Frey is kneeling in front of it, crying like a baby on camera. He's learned to speak Somali, if that's what you call it. He gives he gives speeches. There are videos of him on Twitter giving speeches in Somali. He is as left-wing as they come, releasing prisoners, anti-police. Well, he just had the Democratic primary and the Somali beat him.
That's amazing. Was he going around like doing FGM to people as well? Female genital mutilation. I mean, if you really want to take on the culture, and I mean that's the conversation we're having here at the moment, and it's really interesting what you say there, because in the UK, I mean, I know much more about the UK. I don't know as much about the US, but it's really interesting hearing the parallels. And over here we have the same thing where Labour, the lefty, you know, they started realizing, oh, if we get more and more immigrants come over, but there's been a twist recently, which is similar to what you've just said, which is that the Muslims have started setting up their own parties now. So they're fucked now. Labour's lost everyone who didn't want the sort of Muslim. They've lost them already. We're not going back to Labour now. And they've now lost the Muslims. So now they're setting up a whole new thing, which is scary, quite frankly. Well, I always think with America, like I've been in there quite a lot recently over the last couple of years and talked to all different kinds of people. And, you know, they are concerned about Mexican immigration. But then I say, yeah, but would you rather have that or what we're having in the UK right now? And they all go, well, okay, yeah, Mexican. Okay.
I disagree.
What?
I hear this all the time. And the reason I disagree is it's quantity with us. And by the way, the Mexican drug cartels are nothing to shake a stick at.
I raise the grooming gangs.
No, I know. It's terrible, but it's way more... I mean, look, I don't think any of them should be there. I wish they weren't in my country either. But the quantity, I mean, we've taken in 1/4 of Mexico's population. We're just going to become Latin America. There will be no America. There will be no England. Who's going to fight the next battle against slavery? Who's going to be sending in money when there's an earthquake someplace or taking out a warlord? They are destroying the last outposts of Western civilization, but I would say particularly Britain and America. I'm not really counting on the French.
You know what? I wouldn't. The funny thing, because I lived in South America for about 10 years, and it's funny that it's not controversial for South Americans to joke about themselves and say, God, I wish we had been colonized by the British.
Yes.
Because look at Australia and so on, America. They will say that, but if you say that as an American or a Brit, you're looked at as some sort of ultra right wing or whatever.
No, that's the difference.
It is true, and I think most Mexicans who are not sort of ultra woke or whatever, most South Americans would admit that. Okay, well, if you make everybody Mexican in America, you have Mexico, and Mexico has severe problems for not just territory. I mean, it's the people and the culture. And
yes.
However, it is a Christian country,
Catholic,
right? We've lived next to Ireland and they're Catholic. We're sort of okay with it. And America, it's not so different. And if I had a choice between waking up tomorrow and the Mexicans have taken over Britain or Sharia law and Islam, come on.
But they haven't come close. Well, they might. I mean, you have a smaller island.
Yeah, that's the difference. It's much smaller. It's it's approaching 10% of the population now.
I don't understand why England is doing this to itself. It's the most beautiful country. But if I could say something about what you just said about Spain colonizing Latin America, there are differences between Catholicism and Protestantism that are manifest, maybe even in Northern and Southern Ireland or Britain. But I know with in North America, South America, one of the hallmarks of the Catholic Church, and I don't think a lot of modern Catholics particularly go for this. They've become just like normal Christians. I think the same thing is happening to the Mormons now too. But it's this reverence of the poor, as if there is something particularly holy about not having money. Whereas, the Calvinists, the descendants of the Calvinists, we show God likes us by being prosperous.
That's interesting.
And that does create a different culture. There is this weird sort of worship of and also there's much more deference to a hierarchy, whereas Protestantism is totally individualism. It's you and God. We're not going through a priest. We're not listening to a pope. So the Catholicism difference does actually make a difference to that culture.
That's really interesting. I don't know too much about the differences there. Gosh. Well, so I'm trying to think, are there Catholic countries that are extremely prosperous and successful? They probably are. I hate asking these questions because whatever
I bet if I could go through a map, I could show you that generally the same type of people, the Protestants are going to be better off culturally. But, I mean, obviously that changes as people dump Catholicism. And unfortunately, there was a famous, Time magazine cover before either of us were reading magazines, that is God dead? Because so many Americans were allegedly, back in like the 70s, early 70s, so many Americans were allegedly dropping their religion. It turns out they weren't dropping their religion, they were dropping Catholicism.
Really? Huh. I'm an atheist. But I just don't believe in stuff. But why does that make you laugh?
Because now I can't say, well, you worship authority too much, or
I don't believe in anything. I just live my life. I suppose it's about getting somewhere in the middle, not having that reverence for the poor, which I suppose the woke has taken on from some aspects. But also going, come on, for some people, this is terrible. They grew up in a very difficult situation, and
sure,
they need some social something from the state. Maybe, do you think?
Preferably, I mean, we're never going to go back to this. It's like my pipe dream of taking away the women's vote.
That's another one where, like, years ago. Okay, I still would never. I don't want to take it away. But I think I heard you saying that. But
Probably.
It inevitably, with more women, it will make us a bit of a sort of woker civilization.
Oh, yeah.
More likely to vote left and things.
Oh, no. I've been lobbying for taking away the women's vote forever. Don't think I'm going to win on that. Also, don't think I'm going to win on this, which is individual charity works so much better than...
Does it definitely, though?
Pardon?
Does it definitely work better? Do people give? Do they definitely give?
Yes, and in fact, the bigger government gets, the less they give. But because you want you want the person receiving the charity, for one thing, not to defraud his benefactor. And once you have these big faceless government welfare programs, I mean, it's just like free money. They don't think they're hurting anybody. Well, they are. They're hurting the whole society.
I think where I disagree with a lot of politically similar Americans, just because of the where we've each grown up, of course, it would be maybe healthcare. The idea to me that somebody could not be well off, not have much money, and fall over one day, ambulance picks them up, and suddenly they're sort of left with a bill they could never pay.
Well, we used to have charity hospitals that were right next to the regular hospitals, and it was actually great for both. To this day, emergency room doctors will tell me, or doctors who work in hospitals, that you're better off going to a hospital in the most badass area because those surgeons have seen everything. Yeah. They are working around the clock. So it was good for both. I assume at the charity hospitals, and people, I mean, there are a lot of benefactors, fewer benefactors, less philanthropy like that as, the government's taking care of it. They're not really taking care of it. You'd probably have more people to a room in the hospital, maybe not pretty carpets in the hallways, but the medical services you were getting were great. And for the people who were paying for the private hospitals, who were mostly coming in with, heart attacks, maybe a broken leg, and not gunshot wounds and stabbings, they got the benefit.
That's what they say about pregnancy here, that it's better to go through the NHS than to go private. Because it's like those doctors are there. Yeah, they're like, in case something goes really wrong. And if it did, they would take you from the private hospital anyway and move you to the state one.
Yes.
So I get that. I suppose part of me would feel, if I was some sort of wealthy benefactor, like, hey, why am I propping up all of these hospitals? Shouldn't it sort of be, that other wealthy guy is not giving anything? And I'd start to get a bit annoyed by that.
Well, a hospital, I guess, is a general enough thing that could definitely be purely from taxes. It's more some of the other things.
So the health stuff could maybe be from taxes, do you think?
Yes, but I'd separate. I'd have charity hospital and the real hospital.
I see.
Right now, you get, this is so in the weeds, so I'll just say it quickly, but I do know a lot of doctors. If you are on Medicaid, and that's for the poor, you get quicker, better medical service than Medicare, and that's the people who've been paying in their entire lives. And doctors shake their heads and say, when I have to order extra tests, no, you don't even have to check it out with with the medic, just send them right in. They just whip through it. No, that is wrong.
Yeah.
That is wrong.
It's about getting that balance right, isn't it? I think. Of
Well, that's why, Milton Friedman and Thomas Sowell always say, that was the problem with the Soviet Union. They had like 5 smart guys trying to make the decisions that in capitalism, 1 million people, millions of people are making those decisions for themselves every single second. And that's how resources get allocated properly, and including that kind of balancing.
I suppose in a sense that is what democracy is. It's millions of people are making a decision, and some people, I guess half of them seem to want to vote a bit more left and half a bit more right. And then you get that kind of balance of, okay, we have to help people to, and then also let them sort of try and do it themselves rather than disincentivize them from
Yes. Yeah, that's a big problem when you start getting government handouts. Yeah. And that's a difficult balance to get right. That's because really tough. At each stage, the person somebody's going to be on the edge. Should I get a job and lose my welfare?
That's really complicated for a state to get right. That I mentioned that wall before because I just completely forgot about it for about 10 years. That was all anyone talked about around the world, Trump building a wall. Did he get any of it done?
47 miles.
You
see why I was annoyed, Andrew.
Yeah, so you got a bit of the wall.
It's a 2,000-mile border.
Is it just too expensive?
No, he just... Look, I like him now, so I don't want to viciously attack him as I did, for the second 2 years. I like I say, I was gentle at first. No, I think he just didn't care.
He got in and he's like, I can't be bothered.
I think it was just... And then he got angry enough because of all those silly prosecutions... that he's doing it now. He figured out that was a way to annoy liberals, and that seems to be his main goal, which is great.
That is good. I mean, he's funny, isn't he? And I feel like he has been quite good on wars. Like even recently, people were doubting him, and now again, there's Israel and Palestine, but actually Russia and Ukraine. Okay, but it I think it was worse with the previous regime.
Yes,
more wars coming in every 5 minutes.
Yes, and it drives me crazy. For one thing, our interventions, and some of them I've been for, some against, rarely make things better. But the other thing I just wrote about this week on my Substack, there's a compulsion among some people, some call them the blob, the foreign policy crew, and the media, to keep us focused on every other part of the world. And, I'm supposed to know about these governments and why there's a skirmish here and there, but no, don't look at what's happening on your border. That's not interesting. No, only a hick would care about their own country.
This is the difference between anywhere people and somewhere people.
Yes.
And it's the liberal elite kind of, which I'm part of, I suppose, being an anywhere person, meaning I can travel and I've lived abroad and speak language and all of those kinds of things. But some people have lives where they are just from the place.
Right.
And they don't want to hear about far-flung issues. Yeah, it's such a liberal elite snobbery, that.
I tweeted out, this might be considered a mean tweet,
oh God.
Just on my way here, because I was reading the New York Times, and I mean, it's online, but on what was the equivalent of the front page, it was something about understanding why, I don't even know what the countries are, Thailand and Cambodia are fighting. So I just copied the headline and tweeted, who cares?
Yeah, but that was the first rule of journalism when I first learned, was stuff that happens close to you at the top. And I remember my first ever day, I was an intern at a local newspaper, must have been 21 years old. And I just got there and they didn't even seem to know I was coming. They just sort of, they're like, yeah. Okay, do you want to go out to, someone died in a road accident, half an hour away, go and look at that. So I was like, okay, I don't know what to do. I've never been a journalist before, but now I do. So I drove out half an hour, and it was horrible. Flowers on the road. There's like a mum crying. Oh, yeah. It was horrible from the day before. 18-year-old kid had died in a road accident. So I called my stepmom, who's a journalist, and I was like, what am I supposed to do here? And she was like, I think you're supposed to look at the cards and things and get information and speak to people. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to go and speak to bereaved. No way. I'm like 21-year-old kid. I'm not doing. And I had to go and do that. And like the first people were like, I said like, oh, hello, I'm a journalist from so, and they said, fuck off. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it was just the most. And I went back in my car and I sat there for about an hour. And then my stepmom then said, you've got to get up and go. So I got up again and I asked some more. People found out some stuff and where he was from, the kid, and all that. And I went back and I said, and they were like, who are you? And I was like, you've sent me to do this thing. It was like the whole day of my life, the worst day of my life. And they were like, oh, okay. And what did you find out? I said, he's this, and this is where he's from. And they said, oh, no, that's the next town over. That's not for us then. Don't worry, we can't report it. Because it wasn't interesting to their readers. It was just...
that's so interesting.
Yeah, he was from the border just outside of this particular like town, with like 5 minutes more drive. And they were like, yeah. So that's journalism. And now we're trying to invert that.
Interesting. And I love that story. And I'm glad you were a real journalist.
Proper journalist. I was wearing my little grey suit and everything going around. Oh, man.
Clark Kent.
Yeah, exactly. Nerve-wracking, though. But I can't turn into Superman when I want to. That's the only thing. So, yeah, no, you're right. And there's a somewhere people. Those are the people that have a place.
Yeah.
And this is a conversation that's going on a lot in the UK that I'm really interested in what the American equivalent of it is. Everyone's talking now about ethnicity without being some sort of far-right, so super far-right lunatic or whatever. But, what does it mean to be somebody who's got, my grandparents were all born here for me, but beyond that, I don't even know where they're from. Or someone who goes back 1,000 years, or whether that's different. And so when people are now saying to be English, you need to have a lineage that goes back several hundred years in this country. Now, America, that's almost not possible. I know yours does. Yeah. But tell me
and then you hit the limit.
what does make someone an American? What makes a Mexican or a child of Mexicans not American or American? What is it?
Wait, I wanted to get to what you're doing here in Britain. Okay, this isn't directly an answer to your question, but I think it's relevant.
Okay.
I think the culture has a lot to do with it, and I think some cultures are simply incompatible with Western culture, as I wrote in my column this week. I mean, and the theme of the column, it was this Mexican drug cartels and keep beheading people, and they behead people in the U.S. when they come. They just the most grotesque tortures. They will behead people and roll the heads across dance floors, burn bodies in acid. They had one 14-year-old boy killed 4 guys, chopped their heads off, chopped their genitals off, hung their bodies from a very, very busy bridge in Mexico, and then put their genitals and their heads by the side of the road. Just shocking, atrocious violence. And when this was mentioned by the Arizona governor, which deals with it up close, about 10 years ago, oh my gosh, she was ridiculed all over the cartoons, the parodies, ho, 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 beheading going on. Well, meanwhile, ranchers in her state have found heads. And it was reported, but the media doesn't bother looking at it. And it's weird to even have that skepticism. The ancestry of the Mexicans is the Aztecs. The high point of Mexican culture was human sacrifice. And now we're supposed to be what? They're beheading people? Well, duh. No, that is head shrinking. They didn't head shrink. That's a different culture that's incompatible with Western society.
Papua New Guinea was or something. But what's the prevalence in Mexican culture and society? Like, what percentage are we talking about who are involved in the mafia?
It's so powerful and prevalent. I mean, they control the police forces, and this has been going on forever. This isn't some, brief little problem like the Irish potato famine. No, this is their culture. And, some are innocent victims. Very sorry about that. But we can't tell which one of you are innocent victims and which ones of you are on the police force. And by the way, working on America's Border Patrol, some of them have been busted. And interestingly, they always have names like Gonzalez or Alvarez. Maybe for Border Patrol with Mexico, you shouldn't be hiring Mexican Americans. And I don't care how long they've been here, because the cartels have really infiltrated so much of the government. It would be awful.
I don't think I fully realized the scope of this.
I mean, it's not half the country, but I think it's crazy to vacation in Mexico. I know there's some resorts that are totally, my friends will go and show me the walls around the resorts. Oh, they use walls there. But no, there's a lot of barbarism. And then to bring it to your beautiful, wonderful country that you so should not wreck. How about the cousin marriage?
Are you talking about Muslims, Islam now?
Yeah. I'm thinking cousin marriage is
a big percentage.
Very incompatible
that's
with
why
Western society.
That's why I think of a difference, because I just think in sort of the Muslims now, we've got millions and millions in this country now. And like I say, nearly approaching 10% of the country. And I grew up with this idea of like, yeah, but it's only sort of 1% who are extreme or something.
Right.
And I've come to realize, I think cousin marriage is around, I don't want to say it because I'm wrong, but it's high.
Yes.
Way higher than you think.
Yeah, it's like 40 or 47%, I think.
That's what I think. And then 53% wouldn't want homosexuality outlawed, and 40% would like Sharia law.
And they'd like polygamy imposed. I'm sorry, but why do you want to live in England then? Because those aren't the laws of England. I'm thinking you'd be more comfortable in one of the dozens upon dozens of Muslim countries in the world. Why do you have to come to this tiny little postage stamp area of the world that does not allow polygamy?
Yeah. Well, I've spoken to countless estate agents who are willing to talk about these kinds of things, because most people won't talk about it. And they'll say house prices just go down if like a mosque is built nearby. They're now building the first mosque in the Lake District, which I don't know if you know, but it's sort of our Yosemite in some respects. It doesn't have, not mountains like that, but it's gorgeous lakes and everything up in the north of England, really secluded out. I know the first sort of big mosque is being built there. And you just go, bloody hell. Like, I'm not a big fan of the Hasidic Jews, right? My family's Jewish, I'm an atheist, but the Hasidic Jews, there's like, it's not like New York here. There's like 7 of them in the country.
Yes.
You know, like people, there's like 7 Hasidic Jews. They all know each other. And I think a lot of this, if you've got any kind of community that's nothing to do with the country, I mean, some Hasidic Jews grow up without speaking English in England and in Brooklyn. That's mad to me. That's not part of the culture. So, and I've criticized them heavily because I get told all the time, like, oh, you wouldn't say about the Jews, would you? It's like, no, if you're not being part of this culture, I love this culture in this country, as you say. And I wouldn't want loads of synagogues being built in the Lake District, and I don't want loads of mosques built there now.
But there are a lot more Muslims than Hasidic Jews.
Yeah, there's like 20,000 Hasidic Jews, and there's
in the entire world.
No, I think in this country, it's more than I thought. Okay, but it's something like 20,000. But it's they're so different from Jews as in Jews. We just had a situation a few days ago at the time of filming where at the Edinburgh Film Festival, arts festival, it's like the biggest art festival we have, 2 Jewish comedians, women, were told they can't play. What do you do when you're a comedian? They can't perform. Yeah. They can't perform because they talk about being Jewish in their act, and it's part of that. Nothing to do with Israel, Zionism, because it's a safety concern now for the bar staff who work there that there are Jews there.
Okay, those are people who are incompatible with this culture. That's crazy.
I know.
Why would you wreck this country? I mean, it's not like it's not like they don't have dozens of Muslim countries they could move to where polygamy is fine and cousin marriage is fine and not allowing Jewish comedians to perform. Totally go wild on that.
Yeah. You'd understand if you said like those 2, if 2 Jewish women came to you and said, yeah, I was just banned from performing in Iran. You go, well, yeah, fine. I expect that. But in this country, I mean, that's when it's gone way too far, and nobody seems to care. That's the mad thing.
I don't understand that.
Well, it's because our media is like yours. And I look at them, why did all because that's one thing that is imported here. We see Colbert, he's just been fired, hasn't he? But all of those guys, it's all one political view, isn't it? Apart from Bill Maher, who still says quite woke things sometimes.
Yes. I mean, this is why I love Trump now. Now that we have the good Trump, I may as well say the wonderful things he's doing. It's just like every day he's the left. They call it the march through the institutions, have really dominated the universities, the public schools, the media, every aspect of the media other than the ones that are kind of do-it-yourself, like radio and blogging and the internet. And then they come in and try to censor those. But Trump has he's been a whirlwind of activity. So he's really gone after the media, which is magnificent and a long time in coming.
Do you think he was somehow responsible for Colbert being cancelled from Paramount?
I think both with that and the universities and the law firms also bastions of liberalism, that he's demanding start hiring on merit. Same thing with the universities, hire and do admissions on merit. Well, that's required by the Constitution. It's taken us 60 years to get a Supreme Court to acknowledge the Equal Protection Clause, to get a president to try to enforce it. I think, for example, with the law firms, a lot of them are saying, no, don't throw us in the briar patch. They've been dying to hire on merit. Who would want to be blowing money on people who aren't doing the work? But, we have to because other corporate. So just to have the pressure come in and put on the other side. And I mean, a lot of people at the universities and people who would like to be in the universities but couldn't get hired because they're white men. But surely there are smart people at the universities that don't like the destruction of academia. And it is the destruction. I mean, what does Harvard mean if they're not hiring on merit? If they're not admitting people on merit? If it's all just, well, we have a paint strip. Let's see what your color is.
Oh my God.
So I think, and same thing with CBS. I mean, Colbert was losing $40 million a year.
Was he actually?
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's what all the reports are. So it's a pro bono project that all these left-wing institutions put on.
He's a white man anyway. Like, why did... And that's the funny thing. You see those pictures of them.
Yep.
Apart from Trevor Noah, who's like half white anyway, isn't he? I don't know. It's all just white men in that country. And I think ours is many of ours as well. And fine if they're the best, but they're not the best. And they're just going, it's all the same political view.
Yes. It's all about politics. Yes.
Bill Maher recently let me down. And I say let me down in the sort of macro sense because he doesn't know who I am. But he let me down because... he said it was ridiculous to say there are only two sexes. Did you hear him say that? He said we need to not go too far and say something like there's only two sexes, which is obviously ridiculous. And I thought he must be being sarcastic, but he doubled down on it.
No.
Yeah, and you've been on his channel. You need to have a word with him.
I find that so hard to believe, unless he meant. Because the one thing he has always been, even when conservatives are mad at him for being, left wing on a lot of stuff, he doesn't seem that different to me. He's always been sane and had common sense on basic things like that. So if true, I would be disappointed too, but it sounds so out of character for him.
Maybe someone can comment and tell me, because I'm sure I've seen it a couple of times. He said things like that. Like there's obviously something in between or something. He said that. And I just thought for this guy who was famous for not being religious as well and having this religious belief of like the gendered soul or something.
Well, maybe he means that, I don't know. I'm not going to defend it because I didn't, but he might just mean that some people are genuinely confused.
Yeah, well, that's
and
true.
we acknowledge that.
Aren't we all?
But biologically, there are only two sexes.
Well, obviously, the only woman actually, now that I think of it, of all the American hosts seems to be Ellen, and she's just turned out to be a big bully or something, doesn't she?
That's what I've read. Yeah, I remember watching her as a stand-up. She was really funny. I never really saw the show though.
I think she is funny. She's moved here. She's like down the road from here, so we can go see her after if you want.
Well,
it's a small island.
I would like to point out, as much as I would like to do it also, these people who are leaving the U.S. to come to England are moving to a much whiter country.
Yeah, you think that? We're going to see. Let's see in 10 years. But we were having a conversation before we came on air, and you were saying it doesn't seem as mixed or diverse as America does right now.
Not at all. No.
We don't have many black people. We don't. Here.
No, but just generally, I mean, I was asking you guys, there must be areas that are technically London that are way outside of where I would go because I walk through, Mayfair and even Knightsbridge.
Oh, well, come on. Yeah, but that's the wealthy areas.
And, what is it, Bavaria?
That's like going to the Hamptons.
But it's big. I mean, you can walk for an hour.
Well, so's the Hamptons.
Fair point.
Yeah.
No, and that's very white too. But I'm a city girl. That's why I like London.
There are areas that are like you will. I don't exaggerate. I know people get angry when you say this. I don't want to say no-go zones because it would imply everyone's horrible. They're not all. A lot of them are lovely. But there are places you walk down streets in London, more than streets, entire communities. You will not see one white person.
And well, also I've seen the videos on Twitter of Muslims out in the public square doing their call to prayer and taking over. And you don't see that in the parts any tourist would go to.
No. Or you'd have to change where the tourist goes to. What do you make of the assertion or the creation of a kind of woke right? Have you heard about people talk of that?
Yeah, and I have no idea what they're talking about. Could you explain it?
My understanding in a simple way would be Tucker Carlson, Candace, Owens, those who might go towards or lean towards what some people would say are conspiracy theories and be too obsessed with ethnicities, just like the left is. So it's that kind of obsession with identity and ethnicity and not facts necessarily, but more about we're all victims because of this ethnicity. If you go too far to the right. Have you seen it?
I'd say that's the opposite of wokeness.
Do you think? Well, isn't wokeness is just thinking you're a victim and your people are victims and everything's about identities and cultures?
I think wokeness is mostly just anti-white hatred plus transgenders.
Anti-white hatred plus transgenders.
I think that really covers the gamut of
But no, also obsession with race, isn't it? Because DEI.
But that's anti-white hatred.
I see. Well, I guess then the woke right would be anti-other ethnicities hatred to an extent. To the extent that they drive themselves mad and go mad. I mean, Candace Owens, where do you stand on her?
I haven't watched her recently. I think, I mean, I liked her. We used to be friends. I haven't seen her in person for a long time. I really liked a lot of the stuff she did. I've heard some of the things she's been saying recently. She's kind of going down the conspiracy road. And first of all, having nothing to do with her, but just generally, I kind of hate conspiracy theories because I always will tell people it's this idea people have that, there's one man behind the curtain, and if we could just kill him, everything would be great. Well, no, it's never like that. It takes work. It takes paying attention. Liberals are doing what they're doing right in front of us. You don't need some secret man in the background. So I'm usually yelling at my fellow conservatives who buy into crazy conspiracies.
You're not a flat earther then.
I think she's wrong on what is it, Brigitte Macron.
Imagine if she turned out to be right. It would just be the maddest thing ever.
It's kind of crazy.
It does seem a bit crazy. But she's not backing down. Do you see she was having this fight with Piers Morgan? And I
know, I just saw her. I read about it in the New York Times, I think, wherever it was. Her response that she's not backing down.
You sort of can't when you've gone that far. You have to just keep going and hope that she is a man.
I guess so, but hasn't she had like 3 or 4 biological children with her first husband? I mean, this is part of the problem with all conspiracy theories is to really pull it off, you need hundreds of people keeping a secret.
Yeah, I agree.
Look, Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton, 2 people couldn't keep a secret.
Yeah, I completely agree. This idea, because there would be more people who knew Brigitte when she was a man, there would be loads coming out and going, to be fair, this wasn't man. There's no way they could keep that quiet.
Yeah.
So, no, I agree with you on that. And some of this, I think, unfortunately, when you go that way, it tends to be, these ominous people in charge, the puppet masters. There are people who are corrupt at the top. That's definitely true as well. But
they're all kind of just corrupt in the same way. It's more like the herd mentality influencing them. It's not like, I mean, this is a small example, but people would always ask me, who is it that controls the media? Because and there are hilarious videos on Twitter where you have like 16 TV hosts saying the exact same thing.
Oh, I've seen it. That's creepy.
I know.
So I suppose that is something a little bit against what we're saying, isn't it? There is someone at the top.
But I think it's herd mentality. They listen to one another.
Oh, but it's those things, unless they're fake, they've got
they're probably coming out from like a White House press release or DNC press release.
Reuters.
And then they listen to one another. But they're all going in the same direction. They don't need, no, you're for Obama. They don't need to be told that.
I suppose that Candace thing is a little bit, you said transgenderism, that's sort of the woke left, or woke right. It's no coincidence she's focusing on Brigitte Macron and saying she's actually a guy. So it's sort of an inverted wokeness, this obsession with, trans.
I think it's just nuttiness. I don't think it works to say inverted wokeness.
Okay, well then another example, you talk about wokeness as sort of hating the West, right? So you've seen Tucker Carlson, he's another one who's gone off to Russia and said, look how wonderful everything is here, it's so brilliant, and look how cheap things are in the supermarket. And you're like, well, yeah, because the people they got no money. Right? He didn't seem to get that. So are you not in with those guys? Are those guys like a different political crowd, would you say, Tucker, Candace?
I don't know. I'm never part of a crowd. But as for Tucker going to Russia, no, it's a corrupt country. I wouldn't want to live there. On the other hand, I think him going there, he did go overboard and showing the subway that was specifically built to show the West. Oh, look how great. Okay, there was some mistakes were made, but it was almost like an antidote to. I hear your country is still in the grip of Ukraine fever.
I see, yeah.
But that lasted for about a year in the U.S. And, people who are sick of endless wars that have no point and will not end well, I think bit our tongue, just sat back, rolled our eyes at the Ukraine flags. So I think it was almost like an overreaction to that going on.
Yeah.
And the only additional point I'd make is one of the arguments of the permanent war crowd is any scuffle around the world, any bar fight, we've got to jump in and take the side of right. And it's always because one side is Hitler.
Oh, I see.
Always, this is Hitler, this is Hitler, this is Hitler. So I kept hearing, Putin's Hitler, he's not going to stop at Ukraine. He's going to march through. He's going to take France. And I thought about it and said, well, compared to the Muslims taking Western Europe, I'd kind of like Putin to take over.
But
if that's my option,
you wouldn't know, because Americans love free speech, and they don't have it there in Russia. The media,
you don't have it in this country either. No. With the people being arrested for tweets, what has happened to the mother country?
We get way more arrests here for free speech issues than in Russia, but I think that's because in Russia, firstly, they're not recorded when they're arrested for it, and secondly, because people know if you say something, you're going to jail, so they keep it's much worse in Russia. But you're absolutely right. We've like plummeted in the list of free speech. No one seems to know that. You walk around, no one knows this here because you're in it. You don't see it. You're inside this thing of like, but you can't say things. There was Lucy Connolly. She got put in prison 31 months. She put a tweet saying.
After those kids were killed.
It was
girls.
Right after they'd been killed, and she said, "Oh, go burn one of those hotels that are keeping the refuge for all I care." Then she deleted it 2 hours later. She regretted it 4 hours later.
Yeah,
31 months in prison.
No, it's stunning. It's stunning. And the grooming gang. So carry on.
Oh man, it's Well, or go for like a year and they get out, where she's gone for 30
And
months.
Tommy Robinson, because of his documentary. I had a great interview with him on my Substack. He explained one thing to me on the Substack that I was very confused by. I think one big difference between the U.S. and England. Farage came out against Tommy Robinson, which blows my mind. Nobody understood this. And Tommy Robinson, I mean, to his credit, he didn't sound resentful at all. He explained it perfectly plainly. He said, well, we have much more of a class structure.
I was going to say.
And he said, that's what it's about. And it's weird. He didn't even mind. I love Farage. I love Tommy Robinson. But if I were Tommy Robinson, I'd be a little ticked off. He was incredibly magnanimous about it.
I suppose if it's the somewhere versus anywhere person, Farage has to be able to convince both. He has to convince the anywhere elite as well. And by distancing himself from Tommy, while probably not distancing himself from Douglas Murray, he's able to do that because you've got Russia. But those are the sort of the tricks and tools to get into power, and I think Tommy hopefully understands that. But
he totally did, more than I did.
Yeah, it's nuts. But I'm sure there are things Trump must have distanced himself from, and then once he was in power, maybe didn't. I don't know.
Amazingly, and one of the things I like about him is he really hasn't.
He just sticks to it. He just doesn't. He
does not. I mean, it's so crazy that every time, it's not just Trump, every time a Republican runs, you have to denounce David Duke, We don't. He used to be the head of the Klan literally like 30 years ago. The only reason we know his name is every 4 years a Republican is asked to denounce him. For all we know, he died 15 years ago. He has no power, no influence.
I think he is on sort of YouTube interviews. You can sort of find him here and there.
Okay, you'd have to go looking like I'd have to go looking for the Muslim parts of London. And they just kept asking Trump, will you denounce, will you denounce, will you denounce? And it was I kind of appreciated him getting fed up with the question and sort of blowing it off. And no, I denounce all racial hatred. I forget what his answers were. But how many times does this need to be asked? In fact, one of them, a host at Fox News, Chris Wallace was in the debate, was one of the moderators of the presidential debate in 2016, then again in 2020. And his big question to Trump both times was, will you denounce white supremacy? Way to go. And right before the debates, I'm always tweeting, I just hope they get to the bottom of whether Trump supports white supremacy.
But why? You know what? Isn't it an easy win to just go, yeah, of course I do?
Well, no. I mean, it's a Machiavellian, sneaky thing for the media to do, because the way you can persuade people of something more than just saying it. If you just came out and said Trump supports white supremacy, somebody watching TV or reading it would say, he does not. But if instead you see him being asked, will you denounce white supremacy? A person does a little like backflip in their head. Well, I didn't know he supported white supremacy, but for that question to be asked, it must mean that he does. And I think it's a much more powerful way to convince people of a slander. And so it's a very insulting and nasty question to ask. I mean, the joke line of it is, do you still beat your wife? But just to ask the question, you are, to make the person answer that, you kind of can't do it.
I wonder if he had just gone, what? Like when they asked him. And then
he kind of did. He kind of did. He said, I don't know what you're talking about.
Interesting. I guess, like, I know what you're saying about, yeah, Americans are fed up of America having to sort of intervene in every war all over the place. An argument for the one with Israel would be Israel is sort of quite a good US strategic place in the middle of an area that could be very hostile to America. So just from a purely selfish...
No, Israel is different from every other country in the world.
Is it?
In terms of American support. Yeah. You don't have to worry about that falling anytime soon.
Yeah, but where do you stand on that? Would you rather America withdrew from that? A lot of Americans would.
I don't know what you mean by withdraw. I don't want to send troops to Iran. I wasn't. I was against Trump dropping the bunker buster. I do not think Iran is going to do it. They know they would be obliterated if they did anything aggressive.
When you've got a death wish, maybe you don't really care. You get 72 virgins.
I don't think an entire country believes that. But anyway, I think because there were enough people like me, like Charlie Kirk, like Steve Bannon, a lot of people saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. It turned out great, which is to say he dropped the bomb and that was it.
Yeah, Iran just went out of the picture, the whole story. I did interviews at the time with people, because I do them in batches before, and they go about like, hey, tell me all about Iran. 2 or 3 weeks later, I was like, we can't make this about Iran anymore. I've already done the interview.
Yes.
Because Trump just went, boop, no.
And his speech afterwards, I thought, was great. He said, now we're at peace. We're at peace with Iran. We won't do anything else. No, they're going to be lovely countries.
Well, we were saying like Israel's misbehaved and Iran's misbehaved, these two.
Right.
It's quite funny. I've got to ask you, you're probably bored of answering questions about this, but when I say, oh, I'm interviewing Anne, they say the Rob Lowe thing. Right.
Yeah.
I just, if you're bored of it, I don't want to,
No, actually, people don't really ask me about it.
Maybe in the UK, because it's one of the things that made it over to here.
Well, it was great publicity.
Yeah.
It was the day I was in Trump. If you've seen it, you see that I go straight to the podium, put "In Trump We Trust" on the front of the podium.
You should say who Rob Lowe, because people won't even know who Rob Lowe is, I think.
Well, it was the Ann Coulter roast featuring Rob Lowe, as I began my speech saying.
It was supposed to be, though, the roast for Rob Lowe.
Right.
He's an American actor, He's very handsome with blue eyes.
Yes, yes, which distinguishes him from every other actor. So they invited me. My book had literally come out like 2 days before, and when I'm promoting a book, not that it matters, I don't really need to impress publishers anymore, but I'll do anything to promote a book, anything. And I knew...
It's funny you say that because we've got Bonnie Blue coming on later. Do you know who she is?
No, I think I've heard the name.
She was the one who had slept with 1,000 people in a day.
Oh!
Anything. And next we've got Bonnie Blue after Ann Coulter.
Okay, I got to get that out of my head.
Yes.
I feel like I have syphilis crawling all over the room now.
Luckily she hasn't been in here yet.
Okay. But no, it was great publicity, and the only thing I'll say is, it was without warning, and I had friends in the audience watching it live, professional comedians, and they will confirm that most of the jokes, it was basically just, I don't know if I can say this, you can bleep me, Ann Coulter's a, Ann Coulter's a, Ann Coulter's a, Ann Coulter's a.
You can say it once, but not five.
Oh, then don't watch the roast.
Yeah.
And all of them had their jokes written for them by the Comedy Central writers, who are total hacks. They sent me my jokes, and I said, I'm not doing these. These aren't, they're really, really hacky. So mine were the only funny jokes, but they can alter how that appears in the edit room. So they would take people laughing at my jokes and put the laughing faces after other people's jokes. And then after my jokes, they'd show, faces just like in stunned silence. That isn't what happened.
Really? That's sneaky.
So try to watch it. I would recommend try to watch it. It probably would be easy to do. Just take out the laughter and then see who was funny and who wasn't.
Jokes. It's really, watching it, it's actually horrible. And luckily you've got thick skin, but they really went for you in a way that was beyond, I think, just like a roast or what. That's
Well, it didn't help. I don't think it made them look good.
They made like physical jokes about your looks, and you look fine. It's ridiculous. What a stupid thing to do. But imagine if you'd done that about other people, they'd be up in arms.
Well, like I say, their writers weren't very funny. They're joke writers, and I didn't really care. It started to get a teensy bit boring.
Yeah, how do you react? It's like that happy when they're singing you happy birthday. You got to still smile.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
So at some point, I'm with Trump on that. And look, if they tell a funny joke about me, I think there might have been one. I'll laugh. But if it's not funny, it makes me look retarded to be laughing at something that isn't funny. So no,
but then you look like you can't take a joke though otherwise.
No, I can take a joke. It's got to be funny.
Yeah, okay.
I have a very strict rule on it's got to be funny. And the really fun thing was, not that this has anything to do with anything, but the only reason I have a fond memory of that is I had to get back to get a flight that night because I was doing a book signing in New York City the next morning. And in order to do that, I came with a friend of mine, the whole Hollywood treatment where they just drive us straight onto the tarmac and skipped airport security and up into the plane. And that was fun.
That's great. I'd love that. Oh, one day. I hope they roast me then.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing though watching it. You're right. It's not funny. It's just cruel. And I can see how if I were a teenager watching that and I was like a big liberal, wokey kind of, you sort of clap, agree, laughter. Yeah, have a go at the person who has different views to mine. It's so cheap and pathetic. And it's sad, I watch some American comedy stuff. Like, what the hell has happened? It is just political now and woke and not funny.
Well,
SNL.
I'm a big fan of comedy. And it's funny, at the comedy clubs, they're still doing comedy. And one of them that probably, I think is the best comedy club in the country and thus the world, is Comedy Cellar in New York City. And it's actually in the basement. And then around the corner is Village Vanguard, and it's in the basement. And the comedians, as each set begins, they'll go through the jokes and say, any Muslims in here? Yay. You're not going to like the next part. And then any blacks in here? You're not going to like the next part. Whites, Chinese, whatever. they're very, very, I mean, ethnic humor is funny.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's one of the, like, evolutionarily, isn't it?
Yes.
Of course it is.
But you're in this basement, and I always feel like we're in the old Soviet Union, and if we have to go and hide so we can tell funny jokes.
Oh, man. I talk about this because I'm a big soccer fan of football, we call it, and this player from Uruguay, he made a joke like in the off season that his teammate, who was Korean, he said he was like talking about him and said, oh, it might have been one of his cousins because he all looked the same. It was a bit of a shit joke or whatever. He got banned for like a third of the season for that. And like the thing was, what was funny about that was we were putting our own moral imperialism on them, because I know in Uruguay, I used to live in Argentina, it's the same culture. Like they do joke about ethnicity.
Yes.
They find that funny.
Yes.
So who are we to tell them that's no longer funny? And I know in Korea, where this guy, the victim of this, who didn't care, they don't give a shit in Korea.
Mm-hmm.
They make those kinds of jokes all the time. So this, what seems so right, like never joke about ethnicity. I mean, it's only wrong when it's like there's only one ethnicity or two that you can't joke about. Well, that's when it's a problem. Should be able to joke about all of them. Right.
And no, but you're making a really good point that it's us imposing our university-inspired, woke, politically correct views on the rest of the world that really doesn't give a shit about it.
Yeah, they're just enjoying their lives. And there will be problems of racism, and sometimes people are not nice to one another. In Argentina, everyone's calling everyone like, hey, Chino, and they're not even Chinese. It's just a guy, when he smiles, his eyes close a bit.
New York used to be like this.
Just a bit of fun. But it doesn't mean that the racism stuff's okay. And look, if we go back, you only have to go back, 60 years in America, and blacks were made to sit at the back of the bus and stuff like that. So I suppose that's the other side of it.
I can just say for the last 50 years, it's been open, egregious discrimination against white people. So yeah. I think we're even now.
I've got one more question for you, but where can people find all of your stuff?
Why, thank you for asking. I have a fantastic Substack. I call it Unsafe. It's anncoulter.substack.com, and you really should sign up because 90% of it's free. I do my call, and it'll be delivered into your inbox. My column once a week, usually just a spoken podcast 1 day a week, and a video with a very interesting person.
That's cool. Okay, and there's a Tommy Robinson interview up there, isn't
Yes, there is.
That's going to be really cool. People will really like that. Do people, who you remind me of a little bit, just in how your speech and is? Do you know Lionel Shriver? She's. Really
I've read her. She has that great book.
Kevin.
There's something about.
We need to talk about Kevin.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, I've read the books, but no, I don't know her. I love that book.
Oh, she was on here. She's there, top one. She's American.
Well, I probably should meet her because I like her book.
And she's got similar views, I think. And she's like the only fiction writer who's come out against some of the wokeness. There's so few of them, like her and J.K. Rowling, and that's it.
Man, Rowling is brave. She's been a real fighter. I was too old to read any of that Harry Potter stuff, but I think I want to go back and read it now.
You should. I've read it all.
I've heard it's great, even for an adult.
It's good. It's especially as it goes on. The first few books are written sort of for children, and then they're more for teenagers. So, yeah, it's a bit of fun. You can read it in an afternoon. Who's a heretic you admire?
Who's a heretic?
Yeah.
Is that good or bad?
It could be either. One you admire. It could be it's a horrible person that you admire.
Well, Rowling is one, having just mentioned her. Whoa, Trump is one. And that's when I like him. It's just been Christmas every hour with that guy recently. Who's someone else who totally
Those are pretty good ones. People often say Rowling.
It's just because we were talking about her.
People say Christopher Hitchens.
No. And we were friends. I like him, but no.
Were you friends with him?
Yeah, and I liked him a lot, and he was fun. No. No.
Well, I think that's fair enough. You've given us two.
Okay, fine.
I think that's good. It was Trump and Rowling. Good
yeah,
heretics.
Those are good choices.
Those are good heretics. People, please go follow Ann Coulter, find all of her books, and of course go to her Substack. Wait, I've written it wrong here. What's the Substack?
AnnCoulter.substack.com.
Oh, that's easy. AnnCoulter.substack.com. We'll have a link down below. She's come all the way to America just for this podcast and isn't going to do any. No, she might do some other ones as well. But she's come a long way. So please give us some support and click on that. And also click the like button and keep watching this channel. Remember, check out my sponsor, Fume by going to tryfume.com/heretics and using the code heretics.